The new CEO fired me after 11 years, saying, "We don't need lazy people like you dragging this place down." What he didn't know was I was the only one legally authorized to close our biggest deal. Hours later, his father called me panicking. I still remember the exact moment my career nearly ended. I was standing by the office coffee machine, adding my usual dash of oat milk to my morning blend, when Ryan Cole walked into the break room. The new CEO, barely 6 months into inheriting his father's company, didn't bother with pleasantries. He looked at me like I was furniture he'd decided to throw out. "Lily, I need to see you in my office, now." It wasn't a request. I'd been with Cole Industries for nearly 11 years. Building the client services department from nothing into a revenue-generating powerhouse. I'd negotiated over 100 contracts, trained most of the team, and handled our most demanding international clients. But none of that history seemed to matter to Ryan. His father, Mr. Cole, had built this company through relationships and loyalty. Ryan inherited the title and apparently thought it gave him the right to play God with people's lives. I followed him down the hall, trying to shake off the tension building in my chest. He didn't even sit down when we reached his office. "You're fired," he said, voice flat and emotionless. "We don't need lazy people like you dragging this place down." I blinked hard, certain I'd misheard. "Excuse me?" "You heard me." He flipped through a stack of papers like he was deciding what to order for lunch. "Collect your things and leave. Effective immediately." My heart pounded in my ears. I wanted to shout, to defend myself, to demand an explanation for this insanity. Instead, I smiled, a calm, polite, deliberate smile that seemed to unnerve him slightly. "Understood," I said quietly. "Have a nice day, Ryan." I walked out with my head high, though inside I was trembling. My teammates sensed something was wrong as I passed their desks. A few started to stand, ready to ask questions, but I gave them a subtle shake of the head. No point making this harder for anyone. As I packed my desk in silence, one thought kept circling through my mind. The timing was bizarre. We were 3 days away from finalizing the Kingswell deal, our biggest contract negotiation in company history. I'd spent 6 months preparing for this moment, building relationships with their international team, learning key phrases in Arabic to show respect for their culture. The final review meeting was scheduled for Friday, and now I was gone. Had Ryan even looked at the contract details? Did he understand what he'd just done? Driving home, memories flooded back. 11 years. I'd given this company more time than I'd given my own family. Late nights, working through holidays, taking client calls while hiding tears after my divorce. I'd sacrificed everything for Cole Industries, and now I was disposed of like I meant nothing. But I wasn't angry yet. I was curious. Something about Ryan's confidence, his casual dismissal, felt wrong. The pieces didn't fit. The next morning at 9:07 a.m., my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. "Lily, it's Mr. Cole." The voice sent a jolt down my spine. The real CEO, the man who'd hired me after a single interview 11 years ago. "I just walked into the office," he said, and I could hear the tightness in his throat. "Why the hell did you pack up and leave? What happened?" I hesitated. "Your son fired me." Silence, then a sharp inhale. "What, yesterday? He said you were lazy and not needed anymore." There was a long pause. When he spoke again, his voice was dangerously calm. "Lily, did he read your contract?" I frowned. "What do you mean?" "He's supposed to finalize the Kingswell deal today, isn't he? You were scheduled to meet them at 11. "Yes, we were, but—" Jesus Christ. I heard papers rustling, then a loud thud like he'd slammed something on his desk. "Lily, your contract has a clause, one I insisted on after the Steel Ridge acquisition disaster. You're not just the account manager. You're the only authorized negotiator for the Kingswell deal." I froze. "He can't close the deal without you," Mr. Cole continued. "Not legally, not ethically, not even practically. That contract will fall apart unless you're there." A slow, burning realization settled in my chest. Ryan hadn't read the contract. He had no idea what he'd done. Mr. Cole hung up without another word, but I could feel his fury through the silence. I sat motionless in my apartment, coffee growing cold, staring at nothing. After 11 years of dedication, it had come down to this: a spoiled, impulsive man-child playing CEO, making decisions like moves in a video game. But real companies don't respawn after bad calls. I didn't have to wait long. At 10:13 a.m., Ryan called. I let it go to voicemail. Then came calls from reception, legal, accounting. My phone lit up like a Christmas tree, but I didn't answer a single one. The voicemail was priceless. "Lily, hi, it's Ryan. Listen, there was a misunderstanding yesterday. I might have acted too fast. We need you back today. It's urgent. Please call me." Urgent. Not sorry, not I made a mistake. Just urgent, with panic disguised as politeness. At 10:32, Nicole called. She'd worked in my department before transferring to marketing, and we'd stayed close. "Lily, you won't believe what's happening here," she whispered. "Ryan just got destroyed by his dad, in front of everyone." Mr. Cole walked into the meeting room and slammed the Kingswell contract on the table. I raised an eyebrow. "He brought the contract?" "Oh yeah, asked one question. Did you read this before firing Lily?" Ryan tried to bluff, said something about moving in a new direction, but Mr. Cole flipped right to that clause you always talked about, the one making you sole negotiator. And Ryan's reaction? Ghost pale. He realized he's the reason Kingswell's about to walk. Mr. Cole told him if the deal falls through, his position becomes negotiable. There it was, the first crack in Ryan's armor. "I don't know what you're planning," Nicole added, "but you have the upper hand now." At 11:15, Mr. Cole texted directly. "Lily, I'm sincerely sorry. Please come in. Not just for the deal, but so we can talk privately." It was tempting, but I wasn't ready to walk back like nothing happened. This wasn't just about a contract. It was about respect, trust, and the years I'd invested that couldn't be replaced by a panicked phone call. I wasn't petty, but I wasn't weak either. I didn't want revenge. I wanted accountability. I finally responded with conditions. "I'll consider returning to finalize Kingswell, but only after speaking with Mr. Cole directly. I want everything in writing." By noon, I was walking through the main lobby like a guest, not an employee. The receptionist stammered when she saw me. Everyone knew I'd been fired. My return was more than a comeback. It was a statement. Mr. Cole was waiting at his office door. No smile, just a nod. "Thank you for coming." I didn't extend my hand as he stepped aside to let me pass. "I made a mistake," he began once the door closed. A big one. I gave my son too much authority too fast. I wanted him to prove himself, but I didn't expect him to burn bridges before learning to build them. I stayed silent. What he did was unprofessional, disrespectful, and it jeopardized a deal we've worked 6 months to secure. You were given full autonomy over Kingswell. Legally, the client won't recognize anyone else as our representative. "I remember the Steel Ridge debacle," I said quietly. "I managed that fallout too." His eyes met mine. "You didn't deserve what happened. I'd like to offer your job back with full authority to finish the deal. Whatever conditions you need, we'll make them work." There was sincerity in his tone, real regret. But this went beyond the deal. It was about leadership, dignity, accountability. "I'll return," I said, "but I want everything in writing. Revised contract, clear autonomy over Kingswell, and no interference from Ryan." "Done. And one more thing. This can't happen again. Not to me, not to anyone." He gave me a slow, thoughtful nod. "You have my word." When I stepped out of his office, I saw Ryan down the hall, arms crossed, pretending to be deep in conversation with a junior executive. But his eyes locked on mine the second I appeared. I didn't flinch, didn't look away. I walked straight past him, and I swear I saw the exact moment he realized his control was slipping. By 1 p.m., the boardroom was ready. The Kingswell team had arrived, and we had 30 minutes before the official meeting. I reviewed every document confirming all previously negotiated points. Their CEO, Mr. Salim, was a no-nonsense man with sharp instincts. He valued trust above all, and any whiff of internal disorganization would send him running. As I placed the Arabic translation of the final terms on the table, I caught sight of Ryan pacing outside the glass walls like a caged animal. Mr. Cole intercepted him, their muffled voices escalating until Mr. Cole's hand shot up, silencing him. Ryan's face turned crimson. He looked over his shoulder at me with pure rage and humiliation, then walked away. That was the last time I saw him that day. At 1:30 sharp, Mr. Salim entered with his team. I greeted him in Arabic, and his eyes lit up. "You remembered," he said warmly. The meeting was flawless. 2 hours later, we shook hands and signed the deal. After they left, Mr. Cole approached, genuine relief on his face. "You saved us," he said. "I owe you more than an apology." "You owe your company a leader," I replied, "one who knows the difference between power and responsibility." He didn't argue. That evening, walking to my car, the tension of the past 48 hours finally began to lift. I'd returned not as a desperate employee, but as someone who understood her value and demanded it be recognized. But I knew this wasn't over. Men like Ryan don't disappear. They retreat and retaliate. Within a week, the Kingswell deal made industry headlines. Cole Industries secures historic partnership through tailored strategy and multilingual leadership. They didn't mention me by name, but everyone in the company knew who'd sealed it. My inbox flooded with quiet congratulations from staff who'd stayed silent during the storm. Some were from juniors I'd mentored, others from managers who'd once ignored me but now praised my leadership under pressure. The office mood had lightened. There were smiles and laughter in the break room again. Mr. Cole made it clear Ryan was no longer involved in high-level decisions until further notice. But something felt off. Small things began happening. First, my expense reports. Reimbursement for Kingswell travel was delayed. Then documents I'd submitted came back unsigned without explanation. Next came an email I never sent. Allegedly, from my address, it contained incorrect client information forwarded to one of our overseas partners. Luckily, he was someone I had a good relationship with. He reached out directly to clarify, but doubt had already been planted. I reported it to our IT team. They found no external hacking. The message originated inside the office. That's when I knew Ryan was behind it. He couldn't fire me anymore, so now he wanted to make me look incompetent. Classic corporate sabotage. Cut off resources, isolate from projects, quietly poison reputations until the target quits in frustration. But I wasn't 22 anymore. I documented everything. Every missed email, every unexplained delay, every mistake I hadn't made. I started keeping a private notebook, logging times, dates, conversations. Then I overheard the smoking gun. Passing the conference room, I heard Ryan's voice inside, too loud for discretion. "She's unstable. Since she came back, she's been erratic, aggressive. I don't think she's fit to manage high-pressure clients." I stopped in my tracks. "I'm just saying," he continued, "maybe we should start succession planning for client services. She's clearly overextended." Another voice responded. Someone I didn't recognize, probably a newer executive. "But the Kingswell deal, she pulled that off under serious pressure." Ryan scoffed. "She got lucky. We can't run a company on luck." I stood frozen, then quietly walked away. My blood ran cold, not from fear, but from the icy precision of his tactics. He was poisoning the well again, planting seeds of doubt. That evening, I stayed late, sitting alone in the glass meeting room, staring at city lights and wondering how many more battles I'd have to fight just to do my job. "Still here?" I looked up. Mr. Cole stepped inside, placing a folder on the table. "Your revised contract, everything we agreed on." I opened it, reading through the language. It was solid. "I've also started an internal audit," he added. "Too many things have been misfiled lately." I looked up sharply. He met my gaze. I'm not blind, Lily. I know Ryan isn't finished. Why haven't you stopped him? There was a long pause. Because I needed to see how far he'd go. He sounded tired, more father than CEO. I'm trying to protect both of you, but maybe it's too late for one. I closed the folder. I don't need protection. I need you to decide what kind of legacy you want to leave behind. His eyes lingered on mine. Then he turned and left, and I knew something bigger was coming. The office felt colder that week. Conversations dropped to whispers when I walked by. The internal audit had begun, and everyone knew it. That Thursday, I was called to the audit committee's temporary office. An old storage room turned war room, files stacked on tables, monitors glowing with data. David, the lead auditor, greeted me professionally. We'd like to ask about some recent irregularities. He pulled up a file on screen. This email that appeared from your account, we've confirmed it was sent from a shared workstation near the break room. The credentials were manually entered. Someone stole my login, I said. He shook his head. Someone had your credentials copied. This wasn't phishing, it was internal. We found several others like it. Emails rewritten, spreadsheets altered, sign-offs removed, always traced to shared machines, always under your name. The weight in my chest grew heavier. This was coordinated. Yes, and we've narrowed down who had access. We've also noticed unusual patterns linked to Ryan's executive assistant's login. I sat still as he continued carefully. We're not accusing anyone yet, but there's a clear pattern of sabotage intended to discredit you and possibly others. So, what happens now? Mr. Cole asked us to present findings directly to him. He wants the truth, all of it, no filters. Then I'll be there. David raised his eyebrows. You're not required. I will be there, I repeated. If this is surfacing, I want to look everyone in the eye. I barely slept that night, thinking about talented employees who'd left quietly over the past year. People in their 30s and 40s who'd simply moved on without much notice. Former rising stars. I used to think it was just turnover. Now I wondered how many had been quietly pushed out by Ryan's games. I arrived early to the executive boardroom. Mr. Cole was already there, staring out the window like a man waiting for the final card to fall. David and 2 other auditors came in next. Then Ryan arrived 10 minutes late, looking smug, phone in hand, not a trace of concern until he saw me. He paused at the door. She's not on the audit committee. Mr. Cole didn't turn. She's here at my request. Ryan shifted uncomfortably. This is supposed to be internal, confidential. Then you should have kept it that way when you used company resources to manufacture emails, I said, voice calm but sharp. Ryan scoffed. That's ridiculous. David spoke up. We've traced multiple login attempts tied to your assistant's account, all connected to irregularities targeting Lily's work. There's a clear timeline. Ryan's practiced smugness began cracking. You're reaching. She's just bitter about being let go. I looked him in the eye. You didn't let me go, Ryan. You sabotaged me and almost tanked the biggest deal this company has landed in 5 years. Mr. Cole finally turned. I gave you a chance, he said quietly. More than one, and you've done nothing but tear down the people trying to build something real here. Ryan's bravado faltered. This isn't what you think. No, Mr. Cole cut in. It's worse. Heavy silence filled the room. Then Mr. Cole stood. The board will be reviewing this report. Until then, you are suspended, effective immediately. Ryan opened his mouth to protest, but no words came. He looked at me one last time, not with rage, but with disbelief, like he'd finally realized none of his usual tricks would save him now. He walked out in silence. Mr. Cole exhaled, shoulders sagging. I failed him. As a leader, and maybe as a father. You can't lead someone who refuses to grow, I said quietly. But you can still lead the company you built. He looked at me and nodded. For the first time since this began, I felt the weight start to lift. 2 weeks later, the impact still echoed through every corner of the building. Ryan hadn't returned, and his once proud smirk was now office gossip. The board moved quickly. The evidence was overwhelming. Falsified emails, login traces, disappeared files, weaponized HR complaints. When the final report came out, it was clear Ryan hadn't just tried to sabotage me. He'd compromised the company's integrity itself. His suspension became termination. The official announcement cited breaches of ethical conduct and internal misconduct. No lawsuits, no press release, just a quiet exit through corporate history's back door. When I heard the news, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt calm, steady, like I'd weathered the storm and could finally breathe. A few days later, Mr. Cole called me into his office. "I've spent a lot of time thinking about what I want this company to be moving forward," he began. "You've shown more leadership in the past month than most executives show in a career. You protected our biggest deal, held your composure during public humiliation, and navigated personal attacks with professionalism." He slid a folder across the desk. Inside was a promotion letter, Director of Client Strategy, an executive-level role reporting directly to him. I looked up, startled. "I didn't ask for this." "I know," he said. "That's why you deserve it." I hesitated, then nodded. "If I accept, I want a say in how we move forward. I don't want just a title. I want to rebuild this culture the right way." He smiled. "That's exactly what I hoped you'd say." Later that evening, sitting in my new office, temporary while renovations were underway, I stared at the blank nameplate on the door. For years, I'd walked these halls wondering if anyone saw the work I did, the late nights, the client saves, the fires I put out without credit. I'd thought staying quiet was the best way to keep peace, to avoid friction. But silence had almost cost me everything. This wasn't just about a contract or position. It was about remembering that competence isn't arrogance and professionalism isn't weakness. I'd been underestimated and sabotaged, but never defeated. And I hadn't let myself become bitter. That, to me, was the real victory. In the weeks that followed, I reshaped the department. I reopened communication lines, reinstated people who'd been pushed out unfairly, created anonymous reporting systems so no one else would fear retaliation. I made time for younger employees just starting out, some who'd witnessed what I went through and quietly asked how I stayed strong. I told them the truth. You don't always get to pick the battles, but you do get to decide who you become in the middle of them. As for Ryan, last I heard he was interviewing at smaller firms out of state, but his reputation had followed him. Some said Mr. Cole pulled strings to keep his name from being dragged publicly. Maybe that was a father's last act of love. One afternoon, walking past the glass wall that once housed the Kingswell negotiation, I paused, remembering everything. The sabotage, the panic calls, the eventual triumph. That single deal changed my career's trajectory. But the real shift happened the moment I smiled at Ryan and walked out of his office, refusing to beg. That was the turning point. Not because I gave up, but because I knew what I was worth, and I refused to let anyone, boss's son or not, take that from me again.